In this video, we're going to take a look at a pink ink by Akkerman, their number 20. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the pink ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more of them, you could find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no real shading going on here, and in general, they're about the same tone. Now, the extra fine took 7 seconds to dry and the medium took 12. The scrubby for the medium shows a slight bit of color variation. The extra fine shows none, but we really get none in the writing. The smear test, I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Pilot Vanishing Point with a medium nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, but we do get some minor ghosting on this very thin paper. No feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading in the writing. The stub looks slightly lighter than the extra fine or the medium. The extra fine and medium are the same tone. Extra fine took 15 seconds to dry and the medium took 22. Scrubby for both give no color variation and we're not getting it in the writing. And a smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And this was more interesting than I expected in there's this very bright pink at the bottom pushing its way up fairly evenly, and then it's a much lighter salmony color at the very top, but still very interesting that it's two different pinks. The one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's put into water. And there is a slight forming of a line at the very bottom of it, but not very much. Otherwise, the two of them don't look any different. I'm not really expecting any resistance here. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. This was transfer from another paper. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading in the stub, but we do get little spots of shading going on in the extra fine. And the medium actually has just a couple of lighter spots, but not such a big deal. The extra fine is slightly darker than the stub, and the medium is much darker than the extra fine. Extra fine took 6 seconds to dry, while the medium took 10. Scrubby for both give no color variation, but there's definitely some darker spots occurring in the extra fine. And a smear test I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. This smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles itself pretty darn well, giving me confidence using it in a note-taking situation if I needed to go back and highlight. Now, water's only removing all the darkest tones, but it's really leaving a very solid pink underneath. Pen Flush does everything that water does, and not too much more, really. The 1/3 bleach solution, while it's removing it, is discoloring the paper a little bit. Now, it only took water to get this out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on TWSBI notebook paper. We get no bleeding, but we get very minor ghosting. Not a big deal at all. There's no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade in the stub, no shade in the extra fine, which is the same tone as the stub. The medium, that's the darkest tone on the page, does in that, you see a couple lighter spots that occur, but that's about it. Just a few lighter spots, like the O in over, the O in fox. Not too much. The N, not really much for shading there. The extra fine took 7 seconds to dry, while the medium took 12. The scrubby for both shows no color variation, although to be fair, there are a couple lighter spots in the medium writing. And a smear test I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity is 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Akkerman's number 20 has a viscosity of 1.2, making this a very wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests and all of that stuff's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. The next writing sample is done on moleskin paper. Not known for being fountain pen friendly, and it's showing why here. There is a lot of bleed into but not through the paper. None of this is touching the next page, but all of it means you could not use the back of the page. And we do get feathering in the medium, and we do get some feathering in the extra fine. I think it's much more manageable in the extra fine. The medium's a little bit distracting. No spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine's a lot lighter than the medium. The extra fine took 3 seconds to dry. Its scrubby showed no color variation, and it had none. And the smear test, there is a slight chance that you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Akkerman's number 20 had an average dry time of 12 seconds, meaning it dries just a little bit faster than normal. The last writing sample is done on 20-pound copy paper. A lot of bleed very heavy into the paper, and surprisingly this medium, none of it touched the page underneath, but there is no using the back of this paper. We get feathering in the medium, we get feathering in the extra fine, we get a slight bit of spread in the medium and a tremendous amount of spread in the extra fine. No halo, sheen, no shade in either of them. The extra fine's way lighter than the stub. The extra fine took 1 second to dry. Its scrubby shows no color variation. We don't get it. And the smear test, you can't smear it, so don't worry about it. Instead of finding inks that look like Akkerman's number 20, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a turquoise ink by Private Reserve, their blue suede. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Akkerman's number 20? This is much darker in the swatch. The writing makes a really nice pink tone. It's not hard on the eyes at all. My penmanship is what makes your eyes hurt here. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? I didn't care for the lighter tones that came from a medium and dry pen. Instead, I'd prefer a much darker tone that's solid, and I know I'm sacrificing the shading for it. I would go with a wet broad. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at KWZ's Warsaw Dreaming.